Right, so we can begin. Carrie, if you wanna.
Okay, let's see if I can screen share first and see what happens.
Is the little green button on the left-hand side?
I think we're there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to some contacts compared to, I think what a lot of people have been through already. This one's, I say quite straightforward, but I'm bound to go wrong at some point. So to begin, accounts and contacts. At the heart of every company is keeping track of its customers, which I think we're all pretty much aware of now. But as I'm learning with dynamics, when you dive deeper, relationships between things can become more complicated, as it can do with accounts and contacts. So an account typically represents a company or an organisation, but companies might not refer to an account in this way. They may want to use a different terminology, such as you can see there, partners, distributors, whatever, and that can be customized within the system, any of those names. It doesn't have to be an account necessarily. A contact represents a person. And companies may decide to associate one or more contacts with an account. And depending on what business it is that you're going to be working with and who you want to sell to, etc., will influence how you create records, because business to business generally create accounts. And I've gone slightly wrong there. Business to end users normally create contacts, which is the B2C contacts. I perhaps should have gone through my presentation again this afternoon. Okay, so when creating accounts and contacts, as we've seen with other forms and other things we've entered, you can do a quick create, you can do the long create, but also with accounts and contacts, there's an automatic creation process when a lead is qualified, and the automatic creation is the opportunity and also the account and contact if you're using an account rather than business to person. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll show or try and show that automatic creation process. I'm hoping now that my instance has popped up on screen. It's a bit difficult to see what's happening.
Yeah,
Hey, excellent. Okay, so I created a lead earlier on today, Georgina Ellis, who's looking to bulk purchase dog food. Within my instance, I'm kind of with wholesales, pet food, accessories and things like that. So a little bit of background there. So this is the lead. As you can see, basic information, just name, purchaser, estimated budget, etc. And as you can see there, the name's Georgina Ellis. So at the minute, she only exists as a lead. If we look in accounts,
good old dynamics going fast when you want it to.
Yeah, it's always the case.
Is that your instance that's frozen, Kerry?
I think it's Kerry's.
I think so, yeah.
Well, we will wait for her a little bit because it feels like she started really well, actually. So I'm hoping she'll be able to rejoin, or maybe she just froze a little bit like I did before.
Do you think she knows that she froze?
I hope so. Oh, Claire just asked her.
Now we got Claire on the call. Hello, Claire. I'm talking about Julian.
Hi, Neil.
So I missed you were on the call.
It's your fault I got interested in
All my
dynamics.
fault,
You know,
blame
that
me for
user
anything.
group. Yeah, it was really interesting, that.
Oh, Kerry, are you back?
Hi, Kerry.
She did tell me that sometimes there are some issues.
I'm so sorry about that. I lost internet connection. I'm just hotspotting off my phone. We're out there.
You're going to be lucky to do a screen share and run Dynamics and have a voice conversation on your phone, aren't you?
Actually, she's actually done it. If you switch on the other window, you can see the screen with her dashboards.
Can you see my screen there?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay, so as I was saying, I've created the lead Georgina Ellis, and if I go into my active accounts, I'm hoping it's going to do it. In the day, my internet's fine. In the evening, it's terrible. Okay, so as you can see, my active accounts there, there's no...
People on Netflix, I'm telling you.
There's no Georgina Ellis there, obviously because she's not an account, but if I go into contacts as well, into my active contacts, there's no Georgina Ellis there either. So if I go back to the lead and to Georgina, keeping my fingers crossed. Yay. I'm not going to fill in, I'm not going to go into all the details. I'm just going to qualify the lead. So as we know, this will now automatically become an opportunity once we've qualified. And now if I go into contacts, I'm hoping, and it has worked as expected, she's automatically been created as a contact. So contacts and accounts can be created in this way. So there's the quick create, as we all know and love, up there, or there's the long create when you actually go into a form and click new, or it's created in this way, the automatic creation when a lead's been qualified. Okay, so the next thing that I'll look at is the different types of contact. So we have a primary contact that can be linked to multiple organisations, or we can have a contact which can only be linked to one organisation. We can also create from an account record in a primary account or an account. We can create the primary contact in there as well when you create a new account. And within contacts, I'll just try and flick back to my instance. If we look at the contact here, particularly if you're working business to an individual person, we've got details here where we can fill in personal details if we're working that closely with a person. You know, it's another way there to build up relationships. Once we've saved a contact as well, if we've created it from new, this command bar changes, and it means we can assign a contact to somebody, add them to marketing lists, and we can connect to them. And in the contacts view list, if there's a relationship between contacts, we can also use that to see where a relationship exists, and I'll go into relationships more further down the line. And there is a way when contacts are created, if you're creating a new contact from the list, to detect within the system settings if you're creating a duplicate contact. And I did take a look at this, and if I did have longer, then I'd go through it, but it seems to be a quite complicated process that I may get wrapped around my head and may take a long time to explain, but it may be something worth looking at, and it's in settings and data management, and you can set duplication detections in the entities and settings when you customize the system.
Everything you're saying on duplicate detection rules is correct, and that you can set them up, and it's worth you guys having a look at it. I don't believe, watch me be wrong now, but I doubt whether that would come up as an exam question on this particular exam. I think that might come up in the customisation exam.
Yeah, it was like one of those things that I'd found and then thought it does seem a bit complex, but I thought it was worth a mention just so we maybe have a look in there.
That might not be
we don't have to learn it, thank goodness.
It kind of might be worth being aware of, just in case, but I doubt whether you need to know it in detail.
Fabulous. Okay, so that's kind of the contacts. Like I say, I think we've all been through this already, and we've created a contact, and we know the different places that we can create contacts. If we move on to an account, when creating an account, if you try and add as much detail as possible, I'll demo this in a minute, but you can use the tab selector to move through the sections, which I didn't realise till I started putting this presentation together, which makes life so much easier. Again, like with a lot of forms, once you save the form, the command bar changes, giving you more actions that you can take within the account. And as I mentioned earlier, you can add and change contacts and primary contacts in the account form. So if I quickly move back to my instance and go into an account, I'm still up and running.
If you want interruptions as you go in, if you don't, tell me to shut up.
I know that's fine. No, please do.
There was something on your slide that's a really important point, and I don't think you actually covered it.
Okay.
So I think if you go back to your contact slide, under the different types of contact, where it says primary contact and contact, because I expect this might come up as an exam question, so
right.
I want to make sure that you covered it.
Okay.
Primary contact field. So a account can have a primary contact, but you see where it said can be linked to multiple organisations. That's important to know that. I don't think you flagged that.
Okay. And I think within the terminology as well, contact may come up as regular contact, but I've just put contact there as well.
What that's saying is, there's a subgrid on account that's got all the accounts that are related to that account. You can only appear in one of those subgrids on one account. So you can only be think of it as an employee. I can only be an employee of one company at once. So that's what that grid does. But I might be the primary contact on multiple accounts. So if you imagine you've got a head office and 20 branch offices, I might be a manager that's a primary contact for all of them. But I'll only be employed by one of them. So I can only be the direct contact of one, but I can be the primary contact on many. And it wouldn't surprise me if that comes up as a question. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that was understood. Sorry.
Okay, I might have a diagram on a later slide that does show that. I kind of jump around a little bit. I've gone through the forms and then there's...
Well, that's why I said tell me to shut up if it's coming.
No,
that's
fine. Okay, so the accounts, I can't remember where I was.
Sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. Like I say, really, I think we've all been through and we've all created accounts, so we all generally know what the account form does, all the bits that need filling in. You can associate the price list. There's various things that can be done there. As you can see here on this side, I've got a primary contact, and for some reason I've listed him again as a general contact there. It's probably when I created the account initially.
But that's quite valid. That would be normal.
Yeah. Okay. This was a bit, just a little thing that I found that I didn't know, which I think is obvious when you look at it, but you can tab through the sections when you're creating things. So if you're working on a little screen like a laptop, like I often do, it's easier to jump to the sections than keep scrolling up and down. But that's just an admin thing, I guess. Okay, so that's accounts in a nutshell, really. And back to linking the accounts and the contacts. as you can see there, when you qualify a lead that has a contact and account details, the contact and account link is automatically created, and the contact is the primary contact. You can also create a hierarchy with parents' accounts, as I think of it in my own head now, like in the product price list. So you can have a grandparent, parents and children accounts hanging off there. And you can add primary contacts and regular contacts to accounts, which I guess is what I did on that previous example that we looked at. Okay, so looking at relationships a little bit further, I've got lots of diagrams here. You can have a parent account and a contact, which could be a regular contact or a primary contact. You can have a parent account, and from a parent account, you can have other associated accounts. So I've got Division 1 and Division 2 there, but they could be subsidiaries of an account, or different ways that accounts may well be linked together. And in this example here is a relationship that's developed a bit further. So I've got a parent account, I've got 2 divisions, and within Division 1 there's 2 different departments, and we can reflect that hierarchy within CRM. And I think this is the kind of thing here, Neil, that you were referring to, that the primary contact can be the primary contact in different places, but the regular contact is with only in that one place. But all of these details here, like I say, can be created within CRM and the multiple relationship. And there's a much bigger and better picture of it there. So I'm going to try and quickly run through creating that hierarchy, but I have cheated a little bit, I'll admit, and I created the accounts that I'm going to try and build into that hierarchy if my internet holds up for long enough. Okay, so my account, let's say the grandparent account at the top of the chain is Smith's Super Suppliers, she says, hoping she can find it, which is down here. So just to create some background, Mr. Smith created this account or this company, should we say, and he is at the top of the chain. That is the actually in this R scenario, it's going to be, that's the grandparent account. And after a few years, he diversified his company and set up 3 more companies that he got his sons to run. And those accounts or companies are Field Pet Services, which we can see on here somewhere, Henry's Horses, and Peter's Pet Food. It's so hard coming up with these names, honestly. So if I go to Field Pet Services first, and within here, as you can see, I can actually select the parent account. And I'm going to have to do a lookup there if they're not there. Smith Super Suppliers. So if I add that to Field Pet Services, that then becomes the parent account. And I'm just going to save those changes there. Okay, and back to the accounts again, because there's that second company, Henry's Horses, and the parent account for that again. Why won't it come up in the list? Is Smith Super Suppliers, which is actually there. So I'll add that and save. And I'll also do that again for our third account, which was Peter's Pet Food. Okay, so the parent account for these 3 accounts is our Smith Super Suppliers.
Can I give you a tip?
Oh, could you? That would be great.
You know, you're clicking the lookup and you go straight into this lookup, and it's a bit kind of clunky. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where it says parent account, if you type Smith, so the start of the name, just cancel that. To key in the word Smith in there, press enter. Press enter, not there.
Oh, fabulous. It's small things that make life so much easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So at the minute, we have Smith Super Supplies as the parent company, Field Pet Services, Henry's Horses and Peter's Pets Foods, or let's say subsidiaries of that main parent company. Now, Field Pet Services, within that company, it has departments that look after the needs, should we say, of different animals. And we have field cats, field dogs, and field rabbits. So what we'd do is, obviously, these are divisions within Fields Pet Services and not Smith Super Supplies, and I'm going to use that brilliant tip here. And I'm going to add their parent account in as Field Pet Services. So that will now have a new parent, and I'm going to try and quickly do that for the other divisions because I'm conscious of taking up time here. So if we go into Field Cats, oh no, I've already done that one. I'm not paying enough attention to myself. Field Dogs. And Field Rabbits. Okay, so now we've got that sort of relationship that we was looking at on here. But in the example that I've just created, we've got a parent account, we've got 3 divisions, and then or subsidiaries, and then from one of those subsidiaries, we've got 3 departments. And I'm hoping that now when I go back to the account list, that we, or if we go into the main account, I'm looking for that hierarchy.
You might need to refresh your view.
That we've seen.
Yeah, I expected to see it in that view.
Just there. Just normally at the side.
No, okay. So you're not seeing the symbol you expect to see because you're on an edit grid. Now to put it to a read only. It's a trick question. That's it.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, so now as you can see, there's a hierarchy view at the side. So if we click in there, it's a bit like when we looked at the product catalogue. We've got Smith Super Supplies at the top. We've got the 3 subsidiaries of the company. And then below that, we've got the departments within that company. And I'll be honest, that's generally all that I've done on accounts and the relationships. I've not really delved into it much different than that. And as you can see there, you know, you do get the hierarchy symbol. And as I've just demonstrated, you get the hierarchy view, and that's another one that I created earlier. So I think that's everything. Neil, I don't know if you've got anything else to add that I've missed out that's essential on there, or...
Yeah, well, I think when you read the skills measured, there's a confusing concept that's mentioned, and you've kind of covered it, but it's the way that you might see the terminology coming up. So sometimes in Dynamics, and we use the word customer.
Yes.
And there's, in some parts of Dynamics, there's a special relationship called customer. And when we say the word customer, we mean a contact or an account. And they talk about it in terms of sales, and just to be incredibly confusing on the opportunity, it's not called customer. We've got 2 separate fields for it, just to really blow your mind. If you go and look at some other entities like Case, there's a field called customer, and you can pick whether that customer for this case is a contact or an account. It's inferred from the way the right skills measured that you need to know what the customer field is. But just to be completely confusing, they then don't use that on the opportunity.
Right.
But it's understanding that your customer could be an account, a contact, or a contact at an account. Yeah, and that is the definition of a customer. But it is worth going and having a look at a case and seeing that there's that customer field and how you'd use it, just so you're aware of it.
Okay.
Also, Carrie, after doing that, if you could please show how you got to the hierarchy symbol, as well as Anita pointed out in the chat channel that she missed that.
Sorry, I didn't see it. Okay. If I needed to refresh, well, I didn't need to refresh. When I was looking at all my accounts, I was using I've set up so that it can be an editable grid. When you can change things around, I was playing the other day, but to be able to see the hierarchy, it needs to be the read-only grid, and then you can see with your accounts if they have got a hierarchy within them, and if you double click on those, it will then take you in. Oh no,
I just clicked on the wrong place.
Yeah, I've gone it too far.
I was going to say, usefully, what you can see is you get that hierarchy symbol in the list, but that hierarchy, if you open an account that's got a hierarchy,
you do get it in the account form as well.
So you can get to it from either place.
Does that answer? Is that okay, Anita?
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, that explains it a bit better. Sorry, when somebody speaks, then I see their monitor and not what you're showing. So I've set it up now that I only see your screen.
No problem at all. So yeah, I think that's it from me.
So can we go then to the customer field that Niels was asking before as well, because that's very important, and as he pointed out.
So do you know how to open a case? If we just go and look at a case form, there's one on there. You find these on different forms, but a case one's always the classic example. So go to where it says service.
Field service, yeah.
Service, and then what option says cases. And have you got any data in there? Just open any one of them. And I'm showing it on case, but this can happen on other entities, and you can even create it on custom entities. Where is it? Looking down the screen. I'm blind, I can't see the customer field.
Is it that one there?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just couldn't see it. So click on the search button of that, the icon, and say look at more records. And you see at the top it says look for account. And unlike other things, you can drop that down and you could say, well, find me a contact instead. So that same field can hold a contact or an account, which you don't see anywhere else in CRM.
Interesting.
So when they use the word customer, they generally mean this sort of field. And the technical term for this field is a polymorphic one, which what database people will tell you, it's one relationship that can relate to two or more things. So the lookup normally is a lookup straight to accounts or straight to anything. Yeah, it's always one-to-one. Yeah, so we always have a lookup that is for the account or the contact. But here it can be one of two different entities. So it's a special type of relationship.
So we can see these sort of things also when we want to assign a record. We'll see that we can assign it to either a user or a team.
Yep.
Or
Regarding on activities as well, I suppose, is one, isn't it?
Exactly. So this bit here is important because, as Neil said, it's part of our course schedule or guideline that they say, you have to know about customer records or about sales records, something like that, right? So then you're like, okay, so what's that? As part of it, the customer is actually the account and contact, and we encountered this before when Daniela had to do her business process flow presentation, and she really wanted to add a customer and couldn't find one. So again, it's with regards to that.
The other thing that I always have to revise, because I don't like them and I don't use them, but on every exam I end up revising them. So we're talking about relationships. So the other special type of relationships are connection, which you pointed towards the connections option earlier.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Have you looked at what the connections option does?
I've looked at it, but I'll be honest, I've not gone into it in depth.
Yeah, I've put my hands in the air. I find the interface a bit clunky or whatever, but you know what? We're not being tested on what we think of dynamics and what we think we should use or not. We're being tested on our knowledge, which I always have to remind myself with a few bits of it that I don't like. The idea of a connection is I can connect any record to any other record.
Is it with in no traditional sense? It doesn't have to be
exactly,
or something.
Yeah. So if you think about like we've done with a parent account and child account, there's a direct relationship. So you'd typically expect it to be a branch office and a sub office or something like that. So a hierarchy. So it's a tangible relationship. Connection could be is a family member of, is married to, is a sibling of, and those sort of things. So they're not necessarily hard and fast business things, and they're a little bit woollier, but a contact could be connected to an account, or a contact could be connected to other contacts or any entity. And what we do with connections is we define both sides of the role. So you get these roles you can define. And I always struggle to remember how the roles work and have to go and create some and play around with them, if I'm completely honest, because I don't use them that often. But it's worth just playing around with connections to understand that you can have loose connections between accounts. So a common scenario is you might have an account, a former employee of, you might define that as a connection, because that employee, the fact that contact is a former employee of another account is not a direct relationship. It has no commercial meaning, but it's really useful to know, because if you upset somebody in one account, they're going to talk to people in another account. Yeah. So how all your accounts relate is important kind of sales concept. So it's worth playing around with connections to be aware that there's a concept of loose relationships as well as the strict hierarchies that you've described.
So the way I used connections, and I'm hoping that I could maybe show you it a little bit, even though it's been a while. But I actually found a business case for them, and quite a valid one at that as well. So I'm just gonna quickly share my screen. This is my trial instance. So the way we worked with connections was that in a particular company, we had more people working off the same account or lead or opportunity, right? And it was very much competitive. So the company realized that it wasn't as feasible to just limit access to people's accounts, as so many sales companies and retail companies and banks and insurance companies, they tend to limit their base of clients to actually just one salesperson or insurance broker or whatever it is. But this company thought that, we're going to do something so much better. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to show the whole database to everyone, and everyone is like, it's free for all. Whoever gets to sell first, then that's cool for us. So what they've done was actually connect the user to a lead or an opportunity. So let me just remember how they did that. So I think you go into I didn't check this yet. I was supposed to, I think I got a connection subgrid here or not. So there was a way to actually connect this lead to a user, and the job title, how the job title worked, was the fact that you would say, look, this person is for example, the mortgage broker for this lead, or this person will sell car insurance to this other lead, or to this other opportunity, or to a contact, and so on. Let me just go on to contacts, because most of their data was saved in contacts anyway.
I'm just checking because you hadn't got the option there for contacts. I'm just trying to remember if you can enable and disable it in the properties on the entity. But
there was, so
I can't remember. It's been a while since.
There was a subgrid, but I'm pretty sure that we created that. So from here, so basically, if you go onto a contact record, you can find the little button here that says connect. So if I click connect, it says connect to another. And I'm clicking on that. So from here, you can connect to, and I'm going to connect to a user. I want to connect to a user, and hopefully I'll be able to do that. Yeah, so here we've got another party list, or how did you call it, Neil? A lot more complicated than that.
It's a role. So you have a connection role between
yeah, no, the type of record. How did you call it?
Polymorphic is the database term, yeah.
Oh, right.
You won't get that in the exam, though. That's
yeah. So when you code it, you find it as party list. So that's why.
Activity parties, yeah.
Activity parties, exactly. Right. So the way we've done, you can see it here. You can connect it to loads of things. But in my business case, for example, for that client, we would connect this contact to a user. Let's just say Anita, for example. So I'm connecting this to Anita and adding it as roles. So these roles can be changed as well. So you can add more roles, or you can do whatever you want. And as Neil mentioned, you can have you can be a family with this person, and you can be a friend, or it can be a former employee, or whatever it is. But for me, is actually an account manager. So let's just say Anita is an account manager for this particular contact, and Anita might say, Darren doesn't like to speak over the phone, and she might say he prefers to eat cake. So, for example, if you wanted to take this part, let's just say you're doing great business with them and you wanted to take them out, Anita would say, oh, I'm the account manager for this person, but this is, a personal preference that only I know about. And, from my opinion, this is what you should do if you're talking to this customer. And then I can save and close. Now, the minute I save and close, and I hope it did save, you will be able to see the connection. So if I go here to connection, so next to my record, I've got this arrow going down. And if I go to connections, I will see, that Anita is connected to this account, but also you see other other activities that happened within this account. So some connections get created automatically, such as activities, emails, tasks, and phone calls, and that's because you want to see everything that was connected to this person. So that's the informal relationship or non-standard relationship that you can use within Dynamics. And the nice part about it is that even though all of the information in my case, in my organization, would be free for all and everyone would be able to read it and do whatever they wanted with it, you can actually do field level security so that only Anita can read her own description, let's just say, in case of a competitive sale or you know, things around that, or only she could see her own connections, for example, and she could base everything on her connections. So connections might be a way of establishing your own database of customers in my case. And you know, from my experience with working with Dynamics 365, this was the best business scenarios for using connections. I don't know if you had a better one, Neil.
I don't know about that. I come across a project where connections were massively important. So I worked for a research institute in London that was government funded, and they did research into the climate and stuff like that. They had a bunch of researchers that go out and publish white papers, and those white papers would get published to varying people. But you'd get, say, an MP. An MP might be the MP looking after fisheries, but also they may be on the board of directors for a company that handles fisheries and stuff like that. So they've got all these complicated relationships. So their donors were also their suppliers and everything. So everybody was related to everybody in that company, and that the whole point that company existed was because of its network of relationships. But they were so complicated. There's no way you'd reflect them in normal relationships. You needed to use connections. One extra point, and I think connections make a lot more sense if you go and play with them and try and connect things yourself, because it's always hard seeing a demo. I think, what does that do? Anna did, I don't know whether you saw it, said role brackets to. So on a connection, you get a role to and a role from. And the only way I can ever think of it as a demonstration is to think about child and parent. So if you say somebody is connected to somebody and they're a child, so that's the role to is child, but therefore there's a role from, which is parent. So there's two sides to the role. And I don't know whether you saw when she created the connection, there was a details tab. If you drop that down, you can actually define what the role from is. But generally, when you create the roles, you default that. So a child has got the other side as parent and things like that. But you might have child and decide to have the other side as mother or father and things like that. So you can play around with it. But it's kind of have a play with the out of the box ones, and it will make sense. They're really hard to describe.
Yes, and then there's also DLP course on connections as well. It's only like 10 minutes long, but it does, offer some information. And it is possible that we'll have a question on this in the exam. Now, I don't know whether you guys have any questions.
I've got one. I'm just playing around now with the connections, and I can create connections, but how did you bring up that screen to show the connections?
If you click right next to the record, so right next to the record's name, there's an arrow, and there we can find our relationships, our related records, our multi-to-one.
The contacts record.
Yes. Can you show your screen?
Okay.
It's on the nav bar, Anita. So the right arrow becomes a down arrow when you click on it.
I think I'm getting there. Sorry, my cursor's disappearing as I'm trying to hit the button.
Do you know you normally drop in the nav bar and you can see activities and all sorts of things up there? So if an account's got loads of opportunities, you can see it. So connections is just another thing that you can see up there as a related entity.
Yeah. So you can see service contacts and Darren Parker. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Up. No. Up on the nav. Yeah, there. Contacts, and no, don't click there.
the right end, the end one. That one.
Yeah, see your arrow transforms. There you can see all of your
Got it.
relationships.
Right.
Oh, you went to the price list, I think.
Yeah.
But you can see all sorts of other things on there. Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you.
Yes. So for next time, I take it there's no questions with regards to territories and currencies. I know it's a pretty short course anyway, and there's articles. By the way, thank you, Neil, for
I'm just going
ahead so fast with the articles. They're so useful. Everyone's just excited for them.
Yeah, it's a shame that I've left the 717 exam to be the last one that I've written up. So it's just a shame I've not done that one earlier.
No, but it's it's okay. It's very, very good. But if anyone has some questions with regards to territories and currencies now, that's okay. Otherwise, we'll pick it up next time.
I had one, but I don't think it's one that can be solved in CRM. It's one regarding territories, that you can only have one salesperson related to a single territory.
Yeah.
Reality is that how it works. I thought you could have one overall large territory with a number of subsidiaries inside. How would you set that up?
Yeah, that might be something that you conceptually have. I don't think that's actually the way Dynamics works. The territories are actually quite limiting in reality. And they also get a bit confusing between service territories and sales territories, because the same entities used, but the service territories have more functionality than sales territories. Because there've been an entity that's been in CRM for a long time, certainly since version 3 and probably before that. So originally it was just a way of saying that this manager has this staff working for him and assigning that to an account. But there's nothing that's geographical or anything like that that actually links, and there's no logic of ownership or anything like that. It's just a reference. The only thing it can do is you can have price lists by territory if you want to, and they actually use a connection to do that. So it's an excuse to look at connections. Yeah, but the real world, I've seen that there's a lot of greyness in sales territories, and you'll get some sales people that might live on the borders of territories and might do some work in one territory and some in another, depending on the day of the week. And they kind of divvy up the accounts in a bit of a random way. It doesn't really support any of those kind of things. So there are some real world scenarios that it doesn't cover. But you won't get questions in the exam about its limitations where it doesn't cover it in the real world, luckily.
Yeah, no. So just my recommendation with regards to these entities, which indeed they don't, not that they don't have much use, but they don't provide that much functionality as you would think. Just go through the course, read Neil's articles as well. That actually basically goes through the course as well. There's some open source courses also from Microsoft. Go through those. That's it. It will be enough. I don't expect any complicated questions with regards to territories.
I don't know about you, Anna, but I've never seen them actually used. I've seen teams used to say that this is the sales team and that drives ownership and stuff, the territory. So
I've seen them destroying an entire organization. So at some point there was this big company and they were selling printers, and they wanted to set up territories for their salespeople. But that didn't go very well, and unfortunately, once you set up the territory, you couldn't. So their idea was that you couldn't sell anywhere else, just in your territory. In reality, setting up the territory doesn't stop you from selling anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that that didn't work out very well. And in the end, we were supposed to do a migration, an upgrade, sorry, that was actually a re-implementation, and we dropped territories and we replaced them with business units.
Yeah, so I've only seen them used in service scenarios, and we need to be careful not to confuse the way they work for service for this exam, because you won't get covered on it. But with field service, territories can be linked to postcode. So when you key in a postcode, it automatically defaults the territory on the account and stuff like that. And it has implications as to which service engineer you're going to send to service that account. But that's well beyond the scope of this exam, and I'll be gobsmacked if we get questions on that.
Yeah.
Watch it come up now. I've said that.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Then the plan for Thursday is to have Anna doing her presentation. We spoke about it today. She's really excited about it. Actually, she's done it loads of times in other environments, but she's actually doing it for us. So it will be really good, and it should prepare us. And then second bit will be questions and answers again. I don't know, how would you like to do it? Would you like me to give out the subjects that we should follow until next time, or would you like you to suggest some some things that you'd like to revise? How would you like to do this?
Are you asking?
Yeah, I am actually, yes.
You're asking all of us?
All of you, yes. How would you like to do it? Would you prefer if I went, because I will only go by, I'll look onto DLP and I'll say, right, these are the next subjects. So we're doing the next ones, the next 3 chapters or something like that.
I don't mind the order. I think there is something called relationship assistant, which I'm not sure we have covered.
We haven't. It's with regards to accounts. Neil, I can see you taking... I
was just wondering if we were going to get a question on it, so I was getting myself ready. Yeah, it always feels unfair, the relationship assistant being a question, because it's actually a preview feature, I believe, still. But Microsoft do have a habit in these certifications of chucking in a few preview features. So the first thing I think you need to be aware, I think this is right, isn't it, Annie? You still have to go to your system settings and opt in for preview to turn it on.
Yeah, you need to turn it on first, otherwise it doesn't work.
And in my experience, I've turned it on and it doesn't, and then I've gone in and it's not installed, and I've gone back in again and installed it again and it's worked, and then nothing's come up as a suggestion. Then all of a sudden something's come up and I've got, oh, that's how it works. So the idea of the relationship assistant is to try and apply some logic or machine learning or whatever to decide things you should look at. And in the social pane, you get the relationship assistant, which suggests things. So if anybody's in Dublin next week, I'm presenting on, and I'll include a bit of relationship assistance in my presentation. So say you've got an opportunity for an account that's going to close soon and nobody's touched it for a while. When you go into that account, a little card will scroll across the screen and it will say relationship assistant will show you it. And actually, if I try and share my screen, I've not done this. Let me know when you see, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, because I'm preparing a demo, I've got one that comes up because they're quite hard to make come up. So if I go into, and I'm certainly not an expert on this, by the way. Oh, sorry, I'm into the wrong account.
No one is.
Thank you for doing that.
Not relationship assistant, because it's new and it's kind of a preview feature, and I think eventually this is going to be a really cool feature, but it's new and it's going to need a bit of development. Yeah. So you get this assistant tab. Notice my test data is all superheroes so here quite often you'll see it just does that. It says there's no insights, and that's really rubbish because you turn it on and you think, great, I'm going to get all this insight, and that's all you ever see. But once you've got loads of opportunities and you've got things that are expiring, you'll start to get things like I'll show you here. I hope. Oh, wrong account. Let me try another one. If it's not the Avengers, it must be the Justice League. This is. I was laughing at your test data. Everybody ends up with a little quirk in their test data, don't they? Oh, it stopped coming up. Which was the other account? Oh, there you go. I remember the wrong account to put it on. So because there's an opportunity that's coming up, now one relationship assistant is saying there's an opportunity here, and this is closing soon, to try and bring it to the attention of the operator. So you can go in that assistant tab and you'll see it in there, or they just scroll them up. And the idea is you then click that and it will take you to that opportunity. So the theory is I open this account and it's intelligently suggesting to me things that should be done. I'm finding it quite hit and miss what comes up here. So I think it's supposed to recommend, tell me about overdue activities and things like that that need to be done, but I've set a load up and they don't seem to come, but opportunities seem to come. So it's to understand that there's a relationship assistant, you set up some rules and it can offer you these cards. But it's kind of one of these things that you need to set up and then create some test data, and don't be surprised if they don't come up to start with. And I know that's not a great description, but as Anna says, it's hard to find somebody who's genuinely an expert in this because it's brand new and yeah, it's hard to get working. But it's there. So I find there's this thing here, customize which cards come up. Sometimes this never loads for me. The idea in here is to define what logic it should use. And half the time, I don't know how you experience this, it just doesn't work all the time.
No, it doesn't work. What I do, I just switch browsers. So it happened to me loads of times. It's not just that, it's other things as well.
You try Chrome instead, I'm guessing. Yeah, I don't know where I'm at with Chrome because I'm in this thing. But it's kind of one of those things to play with, but it might be as good to read what Microsoft says about the relationship assistant and the way it works and stuff in terms of exam prep. It's one of those things that's really hard to answer.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
So Claire's listed relationship insights. So terminology. The relationship assistant is those cards that we've just seen, and frustratingly, relationship insights. There's kind of two concepts to it, but there is one that's only available in North America, and it comes up sometimes just to make our exams really, really hard. And I don't know whether you've even ever seen this working, Anna.
The relationship insights. The
one that is supported by what's the company's Inside View that runs it. I might have that wrong.
So for Inside View, I've actually used it when you had to pay for it. So I don't know if you remember, but at some point you had to pay for it. Now some of it is free, for others you have to pay.
But it's only North America, isn't it? So it's really unfair.
Yes. So how this company works, they've got data about companies and individuals all over the world. They've got data including on I don't know, end of year, their budget, everything. So they know everything about a company. Relationship insights pops out when you write someone's name, or when you write a postcode, and you'll find everything for you and then fills in the information within CRM. But you have to pay for it extra. So some of it is there, but not, it isn't a lot. So I only used it when it was paid for, when you had to pay for it. That's when I used it, and it was rather good, I must say, at the time. But now after Microsoft bought it, let me just see.
So I've used a small amount on one project that was with an American company, so they'd got access to it.
They've got data about companies in Europe as well. They're pretty good. But what I can do, you know, I can look more into it and do a proper demo with what it is now. I don't mind doing that. It shouldn't take long. As I said, it's just filling in data. But it's, you know, it's useful to know exactly for our exams. Thank you, Claire.
Power BI is a good question. I'd have to go back to the skills measured and double check whether Power BI is still included in this particular exam.
I'm not sure. They're very vague about it, actually. They say something about sales analysis tools. So by that, you can, you know, understand charts, dashboards, views, and also Power BI possibly. But given the Power BI online version, you have to pay for extra now. And in order to share your dashboards and views, again, you have to pay for. I really don't know whether it's still in the exam. But we can look into Power BI as well.
This is where, Claire, your husband might help, because he'll know exactly what's in the exam.
If he says Power BI is still in, not
No, always a meanie.
Anya, it is possibly referring to how it's set up. But because it's a sales exam, I wouldn't expect it to. So I'll look into Relationship Insights and Power BI and just show you how we set it up. And, you know, just in case we get that question, we can work on it. Yeah, so the desktop version of Power BI I was talking about as well. So the online version you have to pay for, the desktop version you don't have to pay for. You have to install it on your computer. You can hook it up with CRM and various other software. And over there you can create, you know, dashboards and such. But after that, you have to literally take the web resource and put it inside your CRM. You cannot share it with other people, so they can only see it. They can't do anything else, right? So you can't share your Power BI solution with anyone else unless they pay for it. You know, this is how it works. So maybe this plays into dashboards a little bit, because we did have the bit on web resources, I guess. But I wouldn't expect it to be more than that. It's clearly a customization thing. I don't know if it's in the customization exam either.
I don't remember anything detailed on it, if at all, because I've done the customization exam. But I don't know about you. I finished the exam, and within 5 minutes, I couldn't tell you what questions were in the exam. It's like it's gone out of my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Some of it is just remembering it for the exam. But the fact that we're trying it out, that, you know, that's great, actually. And Care, I thought Carrie did a great presentation tonight.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for tonight. I think this was a very useful session. I'll see you again next Tuesday. No, sorry, on Thursday. Boo, what am I talking about? I'll see you again on Thursday. And you know, Neil, you are invited when you've got any capacity. I feel like your you know, your knowledge on this is just so good, and
I'm happy to join whenever I'm free, and you know, I want to be quite supportive. I've just got a challenge in the next week or so because I'm about to go out to Dublin for a week presenting at CRMUG, so my time is kind of quite limited in the next couple of weeks.
exactly. So we can talk about it, and if you do have capacity, then we can do it. Otherwise, you know, it's been very useful to having you with us tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. That was fantastic. Thanks, Anna.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.